Welcome to another Soaring video. This video is a little bit different to my usual cross-country adventures. This is more of a rant, or I guess what I'm trying to do here is to give a visual explanation of a problem that has cropped up in X-Plane 11 with the ASK-21 glider. And I think this problem was introduced with the 11.02 update on Steam. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's when it occurred. Certainly my videos before that update didn't exhibit the problem, and every attempt to use the glider since then shows the problem. Now you can't roll back an update. I'm not sure, I don't believe you can from Steam, so I'm kind of stuck with it now. So I'm going to show you, luckily I've still got some of the original clips I made before the update, and I've made some new clips since the update so that we can compare them, and you'll see what the difference is. It's much easier to see than to try and explain in words, as I've been trying to do in some of the forums, and as I tried to do in a support request to Laminar Research, which I assume they, well, I don't know whether they look at them or not. I'll have to find out. I certainly have had no feedback since I sent it in a week or so ago. So we're going to be looking at the varios. Now the variometers in the ASK-21, there's two of them, and they're both on the left-hand side of the panel in front of us. The one at the top, labelled winter, is supposed to be, according to the documentation, it's supposed to be, I think, a total energy gauge, but it's actually, it appears, well, as it was working when X-Plane 11 was first released, it seemed to be working more as a netto vario. That's a minor quibble. Now you can look that up on Google as to how a netto works. We may get into a little bit of the explanation of that as we go along. I might have to explain some of that, but I don't really want to get into all the technicalities of netto and total energy gauges or compensated varios in general. Below that is the electronic version of the vario with an audio switch on the side of it to give us our audio feedback. It seems to be slaved. The two gauges seem to be slaved in the sim, so the needles move in unison. The audio feedback, as it was when X-Plane 11 production version was first released, was very interesting. It took me a while to figure out exactly what it was doing, but once I worked it out, I thought, oh, this is brilliant. It's one of the best vario audio feedback implementations I've ever seen, because while I've not seen anything like this in the real world or in any other sim, it was incredibly useful because it consisted of two tones. There was if you like, a constant tone which varied in pitch, and the higher the pitch, or the higher pitch represented an air mass outside your glider as rising air, and a lower pitch represented sinking air. Now, that's very useful to a glider pilot to know, irrespective of what your glider's doing. Normally we get that from what we call a netto variometer. So that was essentially feedback from a netto variometer. Overlaid over that constant tone were beeps. Now the beeping, the frequency or the speed of the beeps, if you like, or the distance between the beeps as it got shorter, it represented how much energy was being input into the glider in form of height gain. So it was effectively giving you the total energy vario feedback. And that was what was so unique about this audio feedback, the fact that you could get two things at once, two pieces of information simultaneously, quite clearly and distinctly, and you could still keep your eyes outside the glider. You didn't have to stare at any needles on gauges. You could just listen to these tones and gauge how you were thermaling, or whether you were passing through sinking air or rising air, and adjust your speed and glider attitude accordingly. Unfortunately, at 11.02, that all went out the window. The vario, quite frankly, doesn't work properly at all. The variometers, the audio feedback, or the needle deflections. As far as I can see, the only thing that gets indicated now, things that get indicated now by the deflection of the needles and the tones as well, the overlaid tones, is whether your glider is accelerating or decelerating in speed. And to some extent it also, because of that, it reacts to wind gusts blowing, if you like, into the pitot tube. So those are two things it reacts to: wind gusts and whether you're accelerating or decelerating. So if you maintain a constant speed, regardless of whether the glider is climbing or sinking or what the air mass is doing outside the glider, those needle pointers will not move, and there'll be little to no tone, or certainly no beeps. So that the only way to judge whether you're climbing in a thermal is to look at the altimeter, and that's not a compensated device. So that makes it very difficult, because an altimeter responds to stick movements as well as the air mass lifting the glider or sinking the glider. So it's not a good way to try and center on the core of a thermal or to detect thermals. So to just demonstrate that now, I'll show you how it works now, or doesn't work now. Because at the moment I am actually circling, I believe, I've got it paused, I've got the sim paused, but I am circling in the inner thermal. As soon as I stabilise the speed of the glider, notice how now the deflection on the needles has stopped, but my altimeter is climbing because I'm in lift. Now that's wrong. We should be hearing beeping now because we're climbing, plus we should hear the high-pitched tone indicating the air mass going up around us. Now if I accelerate by putting the nose down, notice the tone goes up now. And if I slow down, the tone disappears and the needles drop. So that's the problem. Definitely not working properly. So now what we'll do is we'll cut to a clip I made before the release of 11.02. So here we are, we're just starting to fly into the lift of the thermal now. You can see the air mass is rising and the needles are rising, and we've got a high-pitched tone. Plus the altimeter is rising, so there's some beeping. Now we're falling out of the lift zone, so the needles are falling, the climbing stopped, the beeping stopped. Getting back into the lift again. Altimeter's climbing a little bit, so the beeping's starting. The faster that altimeter winds up, the faster the beeps. That helps us to center on the thermal, and it Helps us to do wind compensation because the wind tends to blow the glider out the back of the thermals. So you'll see me do a wind compensation here now. Push up into the wind, into the lift again, and I'll roll into the thermal again. Climbing again, the air mass is rising. As the altimeter winds up, we'll get more beats. Now that's how it should work, and that's the way it was working prior to the 11.02 update. And that's what I'd like us to get back to, because that was an excellent implementation of a vario functionality, both in terms of needle deflection and the audio feedback. So until this problem is fixed, I won't be taking the ASK21 on any cross-country tasks, but I will try and get some payware glider models and try those. Hopefully they don't have the same problem.